The galaxy held its breath. Stars shone like tiny sparks over the endless battlefield of Zeta Prime, now silent after centuries of war. The alien coalition, a massive alliance of advanced civilizations, hovered above the planet in their enormous fleets. Each ship reflected light like polished metal, a symbol of their triumph. For years, humanity had resisted. Human colonies on distant worlds fought bravely, but in the end their numbers had dwindled. Planet after planet had fallen. Cities were crushed, fleets destroyed, and humans had become little more than shadows in the eyes of the galaxy. Today, it seemed, the war was finally over. High above the surface, the coalition leaders gathered on the command deck of the flagship Zenithar. Triangular heads bowed together, voices echoing with pride and authority. The war had lasted hundreds of years, but now it was done. Victory was theirs. Commander Thaler of the Xerian Empire, one of the coalition's leading members, raised a long, thin arm. "The humans are broken," he said. "All resistance is gone. Zeta Prime is ours. We can finally declare the galaxy united under our rule." The other leaders nodded, their expressions a mix of satisfaction and relief. In the control room, holographic maps displayed the ruins of human cities. Smoke still rose from shattered buildings, and scattered human survivors had either surrendered or gone into hiding. Meanwhile, on the barren surface of Zeta Prime, soldiers of the coalition walked across the scorched land. They stepped carefully over the debris of tanks, spacecraft, and shattered buildings. Their eyes scanned for signs of lingering human resistance. Nothing moved. No humans dared challenge them now. Or so they believed. A strange wind swept across the battlefield, carrying dust and ash into the air. It was silent, heavy with the smell of burned metal and scorched earth. The aliens paused, scanning the horizon for any remaining threat. And then, a figure appeared. At first, it was just a small speck moving steadily toward the alien ranks. A lone human soldier, walking upright despite exhaustion, wounds, and the weight of centuries of defeat. The alien soldiers stopped in surprise, tilting their heads. How could a human walk across this ruined land after their supposed victory? Commander Thaler squinted through his viewport. "Is that the human?" he asked, disbelief in his voice. His alien allies murmured among themselves. "Yes," said General Krivon, a towering, four-armed warrior of the Tarkal species. "It cannot be. All humans are defeated. Every colony captured or destroyed. This is impossible." The lone human walked calmly, as if the destruction around him were no obstacle. Dust swirled around his boots and his armor was scratched and scarred, but he did not falter. His eyes, sharp and focused, scanned the battlefield. There was no fear, only determination. Alien soldiers raised their weapons, aiming at him. Energy beams cut through the air with deadly precision. But the human dodged, ducked, and twisted in ways that no alien had expected. Each shot missed. Each attempt to stop him failed. The soldiers murmured nervously. Humans had always been clever, but no single human had ever shown this level of skill. This was not just bravery, it was something else. Something the aliens could not understand. "Target him," Thaler commanded, his voice tight. "Do not let him reach our command center." A squadron of Xerian fighters descended to the surface. Their weapons fired in unison, blazing across the dusty plain. But the human moved like a shadow, ducking behind ruined walls, vaulting over wrecked vehicles, disappearing and reappearing where the aliens could not predict. A young Tarkal soldier whispered to his comrade, He is not afraid. How can that be? All humans should have been broken."
Yet he walks.
Unafraid, alone. The human paused briefly atop a collapsed building, looking up at the massive alien fleet hovering above. His eyes narrowed. There was no hesitation. He raised a small device from his belt and pressed a button. A sudden pulse of energy spread across the battlefield, disabling nearby alien weapons. Laser turrets powered down. Drones floated motionless in the air. The aliens staggered in surprise. How had one human done this? Thaler bellowed, "Impossible! No human has this technology. Activate shields." But the shields were too slow. The human leapt from his position, landing in the middle of the alien encampment. Soldiers tried to surround him, but each attack was countered with speed and precision. He moved unpredictably, striking key equipment, dismantling weapons, and leaving chaos in his wake. In the midst of this, a small alien journalist, assigned to document the victory, gasped. Is this a single human?" she whispered to herself. Her voice trembled. "And he is winning against them?" It was more than just skill. It was creativity, intuition, and courage that no alien could predict. Every step the human took seemed to defy logic. Every move turned the alien's strength against them. Meanwhile, on the flagship, Thaler pounded his clawed hands on the control panel. "Call reinforcements," he shouted. "Send everything. No human can survive alone against our forces." But the human had already disappeared into the smoke and ruin, striking again from a new direction. Tanks exploded. Communication lines went dead. Alien squads found themselves isolated and confused. The battlefield, once orderly and under complete alien control, had become a nightmare. Amid the chaos, the human paused for a moment, kneeling beside a fallen comrade, a small drone carrying messages from surviving humans. With a few quick movements, he repaired it and sent it back to orbit, carrying coordinates and instructions to human colonies still hiding in distant sectors. The aliens looked on in shock. Not only had one human survived alone, but he was communicating with others. They realized, too late, that the humans were not completely defeated. A spark of resistance remained, small but fierce. In the distance, the human looked up at the massive alien fleet. He clenched his fists. "You think it's over?" he said quietly to himself. "But it's never over, not while we breathe." Back on the flagship, Thaler stared at the holographic screens, trying to comprehend what he was seeing. The war, which he had thought won, was slipping from his grasp. One human, seemingly insignificant, had become a threat no army could ignore. The battlefield was silent again, only for a moment. The human moved steadily forward, and with each step he reminded every alien watching that humans were not so easily broken. The galaxy had underestimated them. The sun dipped behind the jagged mountains of Zeta Prime, casting long shadows across the battlefield. The air shimmered with heat, dust, and energy from the ongoing skirmishes. Somewhere in the distance, survivors of human colonies began to stir, hearing reports of the lone soldier's courage. Hope, long thought extinguished, flickered like a distant star. The alien coalition had won the war in numbers, in strategy, and in firepower. But now they faced something far more dangerous. The unpredictability of a single human who refused to surrender, who refused to fear, who refused to accept defeat. And so, on the barren fields of Zeta Prime, the final victory of the galaxy's greatest armies teetered on the edge. One human walked steadily forward, unafraid, unstoppable, and ready to challenge everything the aliens believed they had achieved. The war was not over. Not yet. The battlefield of Zeta Prime was a chaotic maze of wreckage, smoke, and shattered dreams. The alien coalition's troops had thought the war was over, yet their formations were breaking down faster than they could understand. One human soldier, seemingly ordinary yet extraordinary in every way, had shifted the entire balance. Commander Thaler watched from the flagship, his eyes wide with disbelief. "How can one human cause this much damage?" he whispered. The display screens flickered with images of alien squads retreating, vehicles destroyed, and communications failing. Every attempt to contain him had failed. Far below, the human moved with uncanny precision. Every step was calculated. Every attack was carefully timed. He ducked behind a toppled tank as laser fire tore the ground around him. With a swift motion, he threw a small device, and a pulse of energy disabled the turret aiming at him. The alien's weapons, advanced and deadly, failed to touch him. It was not just skill, it was instinct. The human seemed to anticipate danger before it arrived. Alien squads advanced, thinking they had him cornered, only to find themselves disoriented, weapons offline, and surrounded by chaos. He paused for a moment on a ruined hill, surveying the battlefield. His eyes, dark and determined, scanned the horizon. Somewhere in the distance he could see alien reinforcements landing. He knew he could not defeat them all alone. But this human had a plan, a strategy beyond brute strength. He had learned the art of patience, of turning the enemy's confidence into their weakness. Flashbacks flickered through his mind. He remembered the training camps on Earth, hidden and secret. He remembered the elite human units designed to fight against overwhelming odds, trained to adapt, to survive, to improvise. He remembered the lessons that no alien had ever been taught: creativity, unpredictability, and courage in the face of impossible odds. Alien drones scanned the battlefield. They emitted high-pitched signals trying to locate the human, but he was gone before they could lock on. Moving like a shadow, he appeared behind a squad of Xerian soldiers. In a series of rapid movements, he disabled their weapons, leaving them stunned and confused. He did not kill, he did not need to. Fear, disorientation, and his relentless presence were enough to turn the tide. General Krevon's forearms trembled as he watched. This human, he is impossible to predict, he said. Our calculations, our strategies, none of it works against him. The human's advantage was simple yet devastating. He did not follow the rules. Alien armies relied on patterns, on precision, on logic. Humans were unpredictable. Every move he made forced the aliens to adapt on the fly, and they were slow to do so. Every step he took caused confusion. Every decision he made created opportunity. From a ruined tower, he picked up an old communicator and activated it. Across the stars, the device sent signals to scattered human colonies. Messages traveled to hidden survivors carrying coordinates, instructions, and hope. Small groups of humans who had thought they were alone and defeated began to prepare. On the flagship, Thalor's voice rose in anger. Send everything after him. Do not let him survive. Alien squads moved with speed, dropping from transport ships and spreading across the battlefield. Yet each encounter ended the same way. Confusion, failure, retreat. No trap could hold him. No weapon could strike him. Every alien advance was met with human ingenuity, every plan countered by unexpected tactics. In a valley filled with destroyed vehicles, the human paused. He could hear the hum of alien machinery, the clanking of weapons, the shouted commands in languages he had never known. And yet, in the center of all that, he was calm, his breathing steady, his movements deliberate. He was not afraid. He did not panic. He spotted a group of Tarkal soldiers trying to flank him from the left. They moved with heavy armor, confident in their strength. But humans had long learned to exploit overconfidence. Using the terrain, the human led them into a narrow canyon. When they charged, he triggered small energy charges hidden among the rocks. The explosion sent the Tarkal soldiers tumbling back, their formation shattered. He moved on, stepping over debris, ducking under fallen beams, and avoiding the alien drones that circled like mechanical vultures. Each encounter left the aliens more bewildered, more frustrated, and more afraid. They had underestimated humans, and that mistake was their greatest weakness. Meanwhile, small messages from the human reached hidden colonies. Families, soldiers, and engineers long thought lost heard his instructions. They began to gather supplies, repair ships, and prepare weapons. Hope, long buried under the shadow of defeat, began to rise again. Back on the flagship, Thalor paced, claws scraping across the floor. One human, one single human, he muttered. He cannot change the war. He should be nothing. Yet he moves like a storm. He moves like a force beyond calculation. The human had a plan. He knew he could not destroy the entire alien coalition alone, but he could strike where it hurt most, where they were weak, where they believed themselves untouchable. Communication arrays, weapons depots, transport ships. He hit them with precision strikes, leaving destruction in small but meaningful doses. Alien morale began to crack. Soldiers whispered to each other, questioning their orders. How is he doing this? They asked. We were told humans were finished. We were told the war was over, and yet he walks among us untouched. The human moved through the chaos like water, flowing into every opening, striking when least expected. His presence alone caused hesitation, and hesitation caused mistakes. Entire alien squads fell into confusion, firing at each other, tripping over debris or retreating when they should have advanced. In a ruined city, he found a small group of human survivors hiding in the rubble. Children, engineers, and former soldiers looked up at him in awe. He smiled briefly. We are not finished, he said simply. We survive, we fight, and we adapt. With that, he handed them tools, energy devices, and instructions. Small but vital steps, enough to keep hope alive. Enough to prepare for the battles ahead. The alien fleet, sensing the chaos below, began to respond with more aggression. Bombers flew low, dropping explosives, while energy beams cut through the terrain. Yet the human continued, using the terrain, his speed, and his mind to stay ahead. Each step he took left the aliens frustrated, tired, and afraid. Commander Thalor stared at the screens, his heart pounding. We controlled everything. Every battle. Every fleet. And yet one human, he said, voice trembling. He is more dangerous than any army we have faced. For the human, it was not about fear or anger. It was about survival and strategy. He moved steadily forward, striking where the aliens were weak, communicating with the scattered human colonies and inspiring hope. Each victory, no matter how small, was a step toward turning the tide. As night fell on Zeta Prime, the battlefield was quiet for a moment. Smoke curled into the dark sky, stars shone overhead untouched by war, and in the center of it all, the human soldier stood alone, wounded but unbowed, determined but calm. He had shown the first signs of what humanity was capable of, a force that could not be predicted, controlled or defeated by numbers alone. The aliens realized, slowly and painfully, that their victory was no longer certain. One human, moving alone, had shown them a truth they had ignored. Humanity was resilient, inventive, and impossible to fully conquer. And as the human looked toward the distant stars, he thought only of the future. The future where humans would rise again, where hope would return, and where the galaxy would remember that even in defeat, humans were never truly finished. The war had not ended. Not yet. Not while humans could walk, fight, and inspire hope with a single step across a battlefield that seemed lost. The battlefield of Zeta Prime had changed. What had once been a field of ruin and silence now echoed with movement, strategy, and the subtle pulse of hope. The lone human soldier who had caused chaos among the alien forces was no longer acting only for survival. He had a larger plan, one that reached beyond himself. From hidden bunkers and ruined buildings, other humans began to emerge. Small groups of survivors who had been waiting for a sign were drawn to the courage and determination of the one who had walked unafraid across the battlefield. Soldiers, engineers, and even civilians armed with whatever they could find all began to gather. Their eyes, wide with disbelief and hope, followed the human as he moved from group to group. "Gather here," he said in a clear, calm voice. "We are not defeated. We have survived, and now we fight, we adapt. We reclaim what was taken." The humans hesitated at first. Years of defeat and fear had weighed heavily on them. But something in the soldier's voice, in his calm and resolute eyes, sparked a courage they had thought lost. Slowly, they began to follow him, armed with salvaged weapons and improvised tools. Above the battlefield, the alien coalition monitored the situation. Their leaders, once certain of victory, now realized the threat was growing. "He is rallying the humans," Thaler said, voice low and furious. "He is turning survivors into soldiers. This cannot be allowed." Yet as reinforcements landed, something unexpected began to happen. Not all aliens were willing to fight the humans with the same cruelty they had shown before. Some soldiers, impressed by the humans' skill and bravery, hesitated. In whispered conversations, they questioned their leader's authority. Was this war truly righteous? Was victory defined only by destruction? On the battlefield, the human noticed the hesitation among enemy ranks. He moved quickly, exploiting the uncertainty. He led his group of humans to strike at key points, abandoned supply depots, communication centers, and weakly defended transport ships. Each success, no matter how small, inspired more survivors to rise and join the fight. The human soldier paused at the edge of a destroyed city. Smoke rose in columns, twisted into the sky by the alien machines that had once ruled the battlefield. He looked around at the growing group behind him. "We fight smart," he said. "We do not need to match their numbers. We need to outthink them, outmaneuver them, and never give up. Together, we are stronger than they imagine." In the alien ranks, confusion spread. Commanders argued over tactics. Some soldiers refused to advance. Others reported failures in areas they had thought secure. The coalition, so certain of absolute victory, began to falter. Meanwhile, the human moved with purpose. Using the terrain, he set traps and ambushes. He repaired energy devices and vehicles the aliens had abandoned, turning them into weapons for his group. Every success emboldened the humans, and the humans' growing courage unsettled the aliens further. In a valley littered with broken machines, the human came across a small alien squad, wounded and separated from their main forces. He could have attacked, but instead he paused, watching them carefully. To his surprise, one alien raised its arms in surrender, trembling. "Why do you hesitate?" the human asked quietly, stepping closer. The alien did not understand the language at first, but the gesture was clear. It no longer wished to fight. The human nodded, understanding the value of unexpected allies. He motioned for his group to move carefully, allowing the alien to retreat safely. That day he learned that not all enemies were unyielding. Some could be persuaded, some could be guided, some could even help. News of the human's actions spread among other alien forces. Small detachments observing his bravery and skill began to question their own orders. The idea that humans were weak, fragile, and easily defeated was crumbling. They had faced one human and survived, yet he moved like a force beyond calculation. Others could not help but admire it. Back at the ruins of a small human colony, engineers worked alongside soldiers to repair ships and weapons. Children and civilians helped, carrying supplies and guiding the group through safe paths. Everyone had a role, no matter how small. Under the guidance of the lone human soldier, the scattered survivors were becoming a cohesive force. The alien commanders, sensing the rising threat, attempted to launch a massive attack. Fighters swooped in, bombers rained destruction, and energy beams cut swaths across the battlefield. But the humans had learned to move with stealth and strategy. Using tunnels, hidden paths, and ruined buildings, they avoided the worst of the attacks, striking only where it mattered. The battlefield became a chessboard. Every move was calculated. The human's advantage was no longer just skill, it was leadership. He coordinated attacks, predicted enemy movements, and inspired hope. Every success encouraged others to rise, every failure taught lessons, and every step forward made the aliens realize they were no longer in total control. In the heart of Zeta Prime, the human and his group discovered an abandoned command center. Using salvage technology, they hacked into alien communications. For the first time, the humans could anticipate movements of the coalition forces. Every plan the aliens made, the humans could counter. Every trap they set, the humans could avoid. The human paused, looking over the map of alien positions. "We are not strong enough to face them head-on," he said. "But we can strike where they least expect it. We can divide them, confuse them, and weaken them. We do not need numbers. We need courage, intelligence, and unity, and we have all three." As night fell over Zeta Prime, the battlefield was lit by fires, laser beams, and the occasional explosion. But among the humans there was a new light, hope. It shone brighter than any weapon or star, illuminating the determination of those who had survived against impossible odds. Alien leaders grew desperate. They could not comprehend how one human had turned scattered survivors into a formidable force. They sent spies and scouts, yet each mission ended in confusion. The humans anticipated movements, adapted to every challenge, and struck with precision. Even some aliens, disillusioned by years of war, began to approach the humans' group secretly. They offered knowledge, supplies, and sometimes guidance, quietly helping where they could. The human accepted carefully, recognizing that alliances could be powerful tools if used wisely. At the center of it all, the human soldier continued to move with confidence. He was wounded, tired, and carrying the weight of centuries of defeat, yet he did not falter. Every step he took inspired others. Every plan he devised strengthened the resistance. Every encounter proved that humans were more than what the galaxy had assumed: adaptable, resilient, and capable of greatness in the face of overwhelming odds. On the alien flagship, Thaler's frustration reached a breaking point. "He is building an army!" he shouted, claws slamming on the console. "Do you not see? This is not one human anymore. He is leading them. He is inspiring them. And we cannot stop him." Other alien leaders nodded grimly. The tide of the war had shifted. The humans, once thought broken and defeated, were rising again, guided by the courage and brilliance of a single soldier. In the ruins of a small human settlement, the soldier paused. He looked at the group of survivors, now armed and organized, preparing for the next phase of their fight. Children peered from behind walls, engineers checked weapons, and soldiers tested vehicles. All of them were ready to follow him. "We fight together," he said, "not as scattered survivors, not as the weak or the defeated. We fight as one, and we will show the galaxy that humans are never truly broken. We adapt, we survive, we overcome." The word spread quickly. Across Zeta Prime, humans and sympathetic aliens listened, watched, and prepared. Even those who had doubted themselves began to rise. The battlefield, once the stage of absolute defeat, was now alive with possibility. The night passed, quiet but tense. Stars shone above the battlefield, witnessing the slow but certain rise of human determination. The alien coalition, once proud and confident, now faced an enemy that could not be measured in numbers, technology, or strategy alone. One human had shown them the truth, unpredictability. Courage and intelligence could overturn any victory, no matter how certain. As dawn approached, the human soldier stood at the edge of the battlefield. His group of allies, growing in number and strength, looked to him for direction. The galaxy had believed humans were finished. They were wrong. The war was far from over, but for the first time humans had hope. And with hope came power, a power the aliens had not anticipated and could not fully understand. The human took a deep breath, his eyes on the horizon. Beyond the ruined cities, the shattered fleets, and the chaos of battle, he could see the next step. The aliens had underestimated humanity. They had assumed victory was final. But as long as humans could walk, think, and fight together, nothing in the galaxy could truly defeat them. The battlefield was alive with change. One human had sparked a movement, and that spark was growing into a fire that could not be contained. The war had taken a new turn, and for the first time in centuries it seemed that the humans might win. The sun rose slowly over Zeta Prime, casting long shadows across the battlefield. What had once been a field of destruction was now alive with movement. The humans, under the leadership of the lone soldier, had grown from scattered survivors into an organized force. Their numbers were still small compared to the alien coalition, but their courage, intelligence, and adaptability made them a threat unlike any the aliens had faced before. From the ruins of a broken city, the human soldier surveyed the battlefield. Maps were spread on the ground, and small groups of humans and allied aliens gathered around him, listening intently. Every voice mattered. Every opinion was considered. They were no longer just survivors, they were a team. "We know their strength," he said firmly. "We cannot face them head-on, but we can outthink them, divide them, force them into mistakes, and when the time comes, we strike together." Engineers nodded, preparing energy devices and repairing old human weapons. Soldiers checked their gear, and even the small groups of civilians had roles, carrying supplies, guiding scouts, and setting up signals. The human's presence inspired confidence. Every step he took, every plan he shared made them stronger. High above in the alien flagship, Commander Thaler and his advisors watched the preparations below. "They are organizing," Thaler growled, claws gripping the console. "This is no longer one human. This is an army, or it is becoming one. We cannot underestimate them." A massive fleet began to descend, preparing for a decisive strike. The alien coalition intended to crush the humans once and for all. Bombers flew in formation, firing energy beams that scorched the ground. Tanks rolled forward, their weapons ready to destroy anything in their path. It was meant to be a final confrontation, the end of hope for humanity. But the human soldier had prepared for this. Using the terrain and his knowledge of alien tactics, he divided his forces into small, agile units. They moved like shadows through the ruins, striking quickly, then disappearing before the aliens could respond. Each ambush, each sabotage was precise. Every attack was designed to confuse and weaken the enemy. The first clash came in a valley littered with destroyed vehicles. Alien tanks moved forward confidently, expecting minimal resistance. But humans had set traps. Explosive charges hidden beneath debris detonated at the perfect moment, destroying several tanks and forcing the others to retreat. Soldiers and engineers coordinated perfectly, using every resource at their disposal. "Keep moving," the human shouted, leading a small squad forward. "Do not let them recover. Confuse them. Divide them!" The alien soldiers, confident in their superior technology, were thrown into chaos. Their formations broke apart. Orders were shouted, ignored, or misunderstood. Confusion spread like wildfire through the ranks. The humans, small but precise, exploited every weakness. Meanwhile, scouts reported alien movements on the flanks. The human divided his forces further, leading small squads to intercept these reinforcements. Using the ruins, hidden tunnels, and knowledge of the terrain, the humans struck where the aliens least expected. Energy beams were redirected, drones destroyed, and supply lines cut. The alien coalition, for the first time, faced a war they could not fully control. In the center of the battlefield, the human soldier encountered a group of alien leaders coordinating the attack. He acted decisively. Using clever traps and misdirection, he forced the leaders to scatter, their communication disrupted. Without guidance, the alien soldiers were left vulnerable. Some aliens, witnessing the humans' tactics, began to hesitate. Doubt crept into their minds. Could victory really be guaranteed? Was it possible that these humans, so few in number, could turn the tide? In the midst of the chaos, allied aliens, soldiers who had defected or refused to fight blindly, joined the humans. They provided knowledge, tools, and guidance, helping to anticipate alien movements. Together, humans and allies struck with precision, moving like a single, unstoppable force. The human soldier paused briefly atop a ruined building, looking over the battlefield. Smoke rose from explosions. Energy beams cut through the ruins, and the sounds of battle echoed across the valley. But in the midst of destruction, he saw something remarkable. The humans were no longer afraid. They were confident, united, and focused. "Remember," he called to his forces, "this is not just about fighting. It is about surviving, learning, and adapting. Every move you make counts. Every decision matters, and together, we can win." The alien coalition, sensing the growing threat, unleashed their most powerful weapons. Massive energy cannons fired across the battlefield, shaking the ground and scorching the ruins. Bombers swooped in low, attempting to crush the humans' positions. But the human had anticipated this. He had used every advantage the terrain offered, hiding his forces, creating false targets, and drawing the aliens into traps. Every attack the aliens launched was countered with strategy and precision. Human squads moved unpredictably, striking from multiple angles, then disappearing before the aliens could retaliate. Each successful strike weakened morale. Each failure created confusion. The alien coalition's confidence, once absolute, was slipping. In one daring maneuver, the human led a small team behind enemy lines. They sabotaged a supply depot, cutting off fuel and weapons for several battalions. The explosions were loud, visible across the battlefield, and the aliens panicked. Without supplies, their troops became vulnerable, disorganized, and demoralized. Commander Thalor, watching the events unfold from the flagship, could hardly believe it. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "We have the numbers, the technology, and yet we are losing control. One human is causing this." The human soldier, aware of the larger forces above, used every tool at his disposal. Communications were intercepted, vehicles repurposed, and weapons sabotaged. Each action, though small individually, added up to a turning point in the battle. Humans had learned that numbers and technology alone did not guarantee victory. Strategy, courage, and adaptability mattered just as much. Across the battlefield, humans and allied aliens pushed forward. They struck at weak points, avoided the strongest enemy forces, and created opportunities for further attacks. The battlefield, once dominated entirely by the alien coalition, had become unpredictable and dangerous for them. In the center of the ruins, the human confronted a key alien officer who had been coordinating attacks. Using clever misdirection, he lured the officer into a trap. Without harming him, he disabled the officer's communication devices and left him isolated. This single action caused confusion across several battalions, allowing humans to press the attack elsewhere. The sun climbed higher in the sky, and the humans continued their advance. Every move was calculated yet fluid. Every decision combined courage with strategy. The human soldier, despite being alone at first, had transformed the battlefield. Humans were no longer passive survivors. They were leaders, fighters, and problem solvers. For the first time in centuries, the alien coalition realized that victory was not guaranteed. The humans, though fewer in number, had turned chaos into opportunity. They had learned, adapted, and outmaneuvered their enemy. Where the aliens had relied on overwhelming force, humans relied on creativity, unity, and the will to survive. By late afternoon, the battlefield had shifted dramatically. Alien forces were scattered, confused, and demoralized. Human squads had reclaimed key positions, disrupted supply lines, and inspired hope among surviving humans and sympathetic aliens alike. The human soldier paused on a high ridge, looking across the valley. The ruins glowed with the fires of battle, but beneath them life stirred. Humans were no longer running, hiding, or defeated. They were fighting. They were adapting. They were winning. He turned to his forces. "This is the turning point," he said. "We have shown them that we are not broken. We have shown them that we can survive, adapt, and fight. Now we take the next step. Together we push forward, and together we win." In the alien flagship, Thalor's claws trembled over the console. "They are changing the battle," he admitted. "This was supposed to be our victory. And now it is slipping through our grasp. One human. And everything is different. The battlefield of Zeta Prime had shifted. Humans, once thought defeated, had turned the tide through strategy, courage, and leadership. The war long thought lost was no longer certain. One soldier with determination and vision had shown that even the smallest force could make the largest difference. As night fell, the battlefield was quiet once again, but the silence was different this time. It was not the silence of defeat. It was the calm before the next phase of victory. Humans and their allies were preparing for what would come next. And the alien coalition, shaken and uncertain, realized that the war they had believed won was now far from over. The turning point had come. The humans had taken it, and the galaxy would never be the same. The battlefield of Zeta Prime was quiet at first light, but the calm was deceptive. Fires burned in scattered ruins. Smoke rose from shattered vehicles, and the sounds of occasional skirmishes echoed through the valleys. Yet amidst the chaos, humans and their allies were moving with purpose, their confidence growing with every passing hour. The lone human soldier, now recognized as a leader and symbol of hope, stood atop a ruined tower. From his vantage point, he could see the alien coalition regrouping, attempting to repair their losses and reorganize their forces. But the humans had learned their patterns, their weaknesses, and most importantly, their arrogance. The aliens believed that victory was theirs, yet they had underestimated human courage and ingenuity. Today, the human said, speaking to the assembled humans and allied aliens, we take back what they tried to steal, not by numbers, not by weapons alone, but by thinking, by adapting, and by refusing to surrender. We are not just survivors, we are humans, and we will win. The words ignited determination in every heart. Soldiers tightened grips on weapons. Engineers checked energy devices and vehicles one last time. Scouts moved to relay positions of alien forces. Every individual understood their role, and every role mattered. High above, alien leaders convened in panic. Commander Thalor's claws rattled on the console. We cannot let this continue, he hissed. One human is leading them. It should not be possible. Yet they are organized, coordinated, and winning against us. Prepare for a final strike. Massive alien fleets descended, bombers screaming through the skies, energy cannons blazing. Tanks and walkers moved in formation across the ruined plains, determined to crush the humans once and for all. They believed that the humans, despite their cunning, could not withstand total assault. They were wrong. The human had anticipated this. Using the terrain, hidden tunnels, and traps laid over days, he positioned his forces strategically. Small squads struck from unexpected angles, ambushing supply lines, sabotaging vehicles, and cutting communication networks. Every attack was precise, every move deliberate. Chaos worked in their favor. The first wave of alien attackers encountered ambushes. Bombers were shot down before reaching key positions. Tanks were disabled by hidden explosives, forcing others to retreat. Confusion spread through the coalition's ranks. Soldiers panicked, orders were ignored, and hesitation replaced aggression. The human soldier moved with his elite team to the center of the battlefield, leading daring strikes against command points. He avoided direct confrontation with overwhelming forces, instead targeting critical weaknesses, communication hubs, supply depots, and armored units separated from support. Divide them, he shouted to his squads. Strike fast. Don't give them time to recover. The humans moved like shadows, appearing and disappearing across the battlefield. Allied aliens, inspired by the humans' courage, joined in coordinated attacks. Together, they created confusion and disorder in the ranks of the once mighty coalition. In one decisive moment, the human led a small team behind enemy lines to the alien command center. Using skill and stealth, they infiltrated the area, disabling energy shields and communications. Alarms blared and soldiers scrambled in confusion. The human did not need to fight all of them. Disorganization did the work for him. On the main battlefield, human squads exploited the chaos. Tanks were destroyed from the sides, infantry units cut off and captured, and key alien commanders isolated. Fear and uncertainty spread like wildfire among the alien troops. Where they had once been confident, they now hesitated, unsure of what was coming next. Commander Thalor's voice shook over the communication channels. They are too coordinated. How can this be? One human, how? But there was no time to dwell on disbelief. The aliens' final strike was underway. Yet it had already begun to fail. Human ingenuity had turned their superior numbers into a disadvantage. Alien soldiers expecting predictable attacks were met with clever traps, misdirection, and relentless adaptability. From a ridge, the human watched as his forces executed the final phase of his plan. Small groups flanked alien positions, traps disabled vehicles, and energy pulses rendered key weapons useless. Every failure of the aliens was exploited immediately, expanding the gap between chaos and control. In the heart of the battlefield, the human confronted the remaining alien leaders. Using strategy and timing, he forced them into retreat, their forces scattered and disoriented. The humans did not need to annihilate the enemy. They only needed to break the structure of their control. Once leadership was lost, the army crumbled. Across the battlefield, whispers of hope spread. Humans who had long feared defeat now realized they could win. Allied aliens, previously unsure, saw that courage and intelligence could overcome technology and numbers. Together, the coalition's dominance was slipping, and the human-led force grew stronger with every action. By mid-afternoon, the alien coalition's remnants began retreating. Energy cannons were destroyed, supply lines severed, and command units captured or forced to surrender. What had once seemed impossible, humans taking the lead against overwhelming forces, was now reality. The human soldier moved through the battlefield, ensuring the safety of his people and coordinating the next steps. He helped wounded humans, repaired essential equipment, and reassured allies. Every action, no matter how small, strengthened morale. Commander Thalor, realizing the battle was lost, sent a final message: surrender. The humans, standing united and confident, accepted only on their terms. They had survived, fought, and outsmarted the galaxy's greatest armies. Victory was theirs. The human soldier stood atop the ruins once more, looking over the battlefield. Fires burned in some areas, but smoke no longer symbolized despair. It symbolized victory. Humans had reclaimed their strength, proven their resilience, and shown that courage, intelligence, and unity were more powerful than sheer numbers. He turned to his allies, human and alien alike. "We have won this day," he said, voice steady. "Not by force alone, but by refusing to accept defeat. We survived. We adapted. We fought together. And we proved that humanity can never be truly broken." Cheers erupted across the battlefield. Soldiers, engineers, and civilians alike celebrated, their hearts filled with relief, pride, and hope. The lone human soldier who had walked onto the battlefield alone was now the symbol of a renewed human spirit, inspiring everyone who had survived. Across the galaxy, news of Zeta Prime spread. Humans had been underestimated, thought weak and defeated, but one soldier had reminded the universe of what humans could do: adapt, overcome, and triumph against impossible odds. Even some aliens who had fought with the coalition began to reconsider their loyalties. They had seen the courage, skill, and intelligence of humans. Some offered assistance to the survivors, helping rebuild and secure planets formerly lost. The war's end had sparked not just victory, but also a reconsideration of alliances and respect. The battlefield grew quiet again as night fell. Fires burned low, but the glow of hope remained. Humans had proven their resilience, inspiring confidence and courage that would carry them forward. The galaxy had been reminded that even in the darkest times, one individual, human, could change everything. The human soldier, standing alone for a moment, looked at the stars above. Each one represented distant colonies, survivors, and future opportunities. The war had been long, brutal, and filled with loss. Yet the galaxy now knew the truth: humans were never truly finished. "The war is over," he whispered to himself. "But this is only the beginning. We survived when no one expected it. We fought when all hope seemed lost. And we will continue to grow, to protect, and to rise." He turned back to the people around him, humans and allies who had fought alongside him. Together, they had achieved the impossible. Together, they would rebuild. And together, they would ensure that humanity's story, no matter how small or threatened, would continue to shine across the galaxy. The alien coalition, broken and humbled, retreated to their own territories. They had faced a species they could not predict, a species that would not surrender, and a species that had turned defeat into victory. They would remember this day for the rest of their existence. A day when one human walked onto a battlefield and changed the course of history. Zeta Prime, once a symbol of destruction and loss, now stood as a monument to survival, courage, and human ingenuity. Fires burned in celebration, signals transmitted across the stars, and hope spread to every corner of the galaxy where humans had survived. And at the center of it all stood the lone human soldier, battered but unbowed, wounded but unstoppable, the living symbol of everything humans could be. The war had been won, not by numbers, not by technology, but by humanity itself.